What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Today, we have the running back rankings, finally releasing the running back rankings, breaking them down by tier. I think it's like the top 65 or 70. It's going to be less formal than the player breakdowns. I'm going to go over how I feel about the player. I'm going to throw in some statistics, but overall, I'm going to say, do I like targeting them in standard or PPR, and how risky are they? So that's basically how this is going to be structured, but I'm just going to go top to bottom. 1 through, again, it's like 1 through 70, how I feel about each player. If you have the premium rankings, I highly recommend you follow along with that, whatever version we've released. Since this video was released, because I know some of you don't watch it exactly when it comes out. But what I want to remind people is that you can get the premium rankings, and they're much cheaper now. Used to be going for $20, but we have partnered with DraftKings. So now you can get them for $10. You can get our premium rankings now for $10. And the thing is, you don't even lose that $10. All you got to do is go to the description of this video, click the link. You're going to see it down there. I'm going to highlight it everywhere. Deposit $10 into a DraftKings account. You'll get premium access to our site. Obviously, you'll still get that $10 in your DraftKings account. You get premium access to our site. So that gives you our rankings, our player breakdowns, our players to target at each point in the draft, our risk ratings, our projected range of outcomes, our projected target market share, early, middle, and late round strategies for each position, for each scoring setting. And you get access to our private season-long chat, where you can ask questions during the draft season and the regular season, along with access to the DFS chat and my weekly picks article. So you get all of this by depositing $10 into your own DraftKings account, which I will then help you grow. I started off DraftKings about 3 years ago with $5. That is the only $5 that I've spent in DraftKings. I've just been recycling my winnings into contests since then. I play basketball, play baseball, I play football. I will help you win money on DraftKings. DraftKings is football. Football is probably the easiest sport to play. There are a lot of people out there that don't know what they're doing. So deposit the $10 with the link, or else we don't know you did it and you won't get access to the site. But it's $10, guys. And I'm going to help you expand that money. So I think that's a fantastic deal. Never thought we could actually offer something that amazing. So make sure to check that out. But let's dive into the rankings. I'm not going to do a stat of the day today because we're going over the entire running back position. So just have a discussion in the comment section. I know for a fact you guys are going to disagree on a lot of the players that have ranked and a lot of the takes. For you to agree on every single player is ridiculous. So you shouldn't just be watching our rankings video. You should be watching all the rankings videos. You should be listening to all the podcasts, reading all the articles to get a better understanding. Don't just listen to me. But of course, I think my advice is the best. But whatever. We're going to hop into this. Todd Gurley. This is tier 1. All you see right now is tier 1. It's Todd Gurley, Zeke, Lev Bell, David Johnson. This is for PPR scoring. I will say that whoever you want to take, this is the conversation I have with every single person who asks me this question. Whoever you think is going to be the top running back, I don't care if you think David Johnson is, Lev Bell, Zeke, Gurley. You take that player. It is not egregious to take David Johnson first overall. Not at all. Lev Bell? Nope. You can do it. Ezekiel Elliott? Yep. Absolutely you can take him first overall. And actually I have him ranked higher than a lot of people do in PPR. I have him first overall in standard. But whoever you feel the most confident in, take first overall. I feel the most confident in Gurley because his defense is elite. The offense is very good, and I just think it's safe. He's going to get receptions. He's going to have a very positive game script. And just look at how amazing he was last season. He increased his touches per game. He increased his receptions. He finished as a running back 1 in 12 of the 15 games he played. He had 8 top 5 finishes and 4 first overall finishes. Everyone knows that he crushed it in the playoffs, and it was pretty hard to win without him. But even during the season, he was fantastic. I can make a case for every single one of these guys, but right now at least, I have the strongest case for Gurley. Moving on is Zeke, and another thing, you remember the early round strategy video that I posted maybe, 2-3 weeks ago? And it talks about how important it is to hit on that first pick, first, second, and third round picks, really in fourth round too. Well, Ezekiel Elliott is safe, and his variance is lower than every other player. he has a very low variance week to week. So if you want a rock on your team, it's Ezekiel Elliott. He's going to get you touchdowns. He's going to get you a few receptions. He's definitely not as high as Gurley, Bell, and DJ, but he's safe in the touchdown department. He's safe in the fact that he might get 400 touches this season, which is not something you can say about very many people. And I do think he has a chance to improve on the receptions because it's not like they have elite pass-catching options. They have good pass-catching options. They're going to be fine, but I think that he is such a focal point of that offense that it's such a good pick. I have to take it at 2. So I'm taking Gurley first, Zeke second, then Lev Bell. And as of recording this, I haven't personally heard anything about if he plans on sitting out for a certain amount of time. Maybe something came out recently that I just haven't seen. But I'm just going to assume that he comes back to camp. He does his normal routine, and he's going to be good to go. If he's holding out for a certain amount of time during the offseason, definitely not the regular season, we're pulling him back in the rankings if he does that, which he won't. But if he's holding out during the training camp, then just drop him to 4. But I don't really think there's a case to be made for not taking him in the top 4. The receptions are going to be there. The touchdowns for him, surprisingly, I guess, in such a high-scoring offense, hasn't been as high as DJ and Zeke and Gurley. But the upside is still there. I mean, he could legitimately have 100 receptions. And, it's insane the upside that every one of these top 4 have. So I have him at 3. And then I have DJ at 4. DJ has a very difficult schedule. He has a very risky quarterback situation because we just don't know what to expect. And he does not have that great of an offensive line. So there are a lot of factors that are why I have him at 4. But there's no case to be made for taking him outside of the top 4. And there's still a case to be made for him at 1. Because remember, this is the same guy who nearly had 1,000 rushing and receiving. So if this guy can have 1,000 receiving yards and like 15 touchdowns, it doesn't really matter what he's doing on the ground. And actually, if you look at the running back production that the Cardinals had last season, even how terrible they were, it really wasn't that bad. Add up all the running back stats, now make those players David Johnson. I still think he's a safe pick. No one can predict injuries, so we're not sitting here saying, oh, he's going to get hurt. No. Injuries are impossible to predict, so don't even factor that into this decision. He's still going to get the touches, and he's still going to be awesome. Next tier number 2, we've got Saquon Barkley, Melvin Gordon, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, and Kareem Hunt. So starting things off with Saquon Barkley, I think he's a safe pick. I have him in a relatively low risk category if you look at our premium rankings, and I feel very comfortable with that. I also feel comfortable ranking him 5th. I have had him 5th for the entire offseason. That's ahead of Antonio Brown, like 5th overall. Look at this man's workout metrics. 99th percentile SparkX score, 96th percentile bench press, 97th percentile burst score, 99th percentile speed score, 97th percentile 40 time, 93rd percentile college target share. He is a fantastic running back, a freak of nature. He's going to get a ton of receptions. He has massive upside. And the Giants are not going to draft him 2nd overall and then not make him the focal point of the offense. This team has a lot of upside on offense. They have weapons all around the field. Now, I'm not counting Eli in that category of weapons. I think he's being drastically undervalued this season. But when you have Evan Ingram, you have a developing Sterling Shepard, and you have Odell on the outside, and then you add in one of the best running back prospects I have ever seen, that's an elite offense. He's going to be the goal line back. He's going to be the 3rd down back. He's going to be the running back on that team, and I want that. Even in PPR scoring, I want that even ahead of Antonio Brown. So I have him much higher than a lot of people do. I'm not concerned about any sort of risk. I think he's fantastic and a great pick. Melvin Gordon is next, and this team, like, it's injuries every year. It's just freak injuries that happen, and it's really unfortunate because I thought this team, I thought they really had a chance to win the Super Bowl this season. I've picked the Vikings, and in the magazine article that I did, I picked the Vikings, but it could have easily been the Chargers if they don't lose Hunter Henry, and they lose Jason Verrett, horrible injury. Now Derwin James is actually, I think he got hurt like today or something. So it's just incredible how many injuries this team has suffered. And you look at it from the standpoint of Melvin Gordon, the defense is taking a hit. So maybe that's a concern to him because maybe they won't be able to just ride their defense and then pound the clock out on the ground game. But I don't think it's a huge impact to him. I think he can be productive whether they're winning or losing. But it's the Hunter Henry injury. I mean, it's Keenan Allen. It's whatever we see from Mike Williams in the red zone. But Melvin Gordon is that next guy, and he's going to have a very high touchdown expectancy. So I think when you factor in his receptions, the touchdown expectancy, and the fact the team's going to be good in an AFC that's overall not that great, I think he's a great pick. So I have him there at 6th, 8th overall, if we're still doing overalls in PPR scoring. Then it's Dalvin Cook. And like I just said, I have the Vikings winning the Super Bowl. So obviously I'm going to rank Dalvin Cook pretty high. I have him 10th overall, running back 7. I think he's a phenomenal running back. I'm not at all concerned about Latavius Murray. There's absolutely nothing that would indicate that Murray's going to take any sort of workload away. I have that team being fantastic on offense, which means touchdowns, which means running the ball late. It's the same thing with Melvin Gordon. I just think they're both phenomenal picks. Alvin Kamara I have next at 11th overall and running back 8. I'm personally lower on Kamara than a lot of people are. I think we're putting a little bit too much stock into variance. There's not a single person out there that will admit that he didn't fall in the high end of variance. And if they do admit that didn't happen, they're just lying to you. The truth is, statistically, he fell on the extreme high end of variance, one of the highest ends we've seen in a long time. Even if he falls average this season, that's going to be way lower in points per game than what he was last season. I know he's starting off with no Ingram for 4 games, but I don't really care about the first 4 weeks, to be completely honest. I just don't. If you told me that Ingram was suspended for weeks 12 through 16, I'd probably have Kamara at 5. I probably would, because I value the end of the season significantly more than I do the beginning of the season. Beginning of the season, you've got all your players. They're generally healthy. There's no bye weeks. It's just easier to fill in a roster that's going to score a lot of points. But late in the season, we don't really know what's happening back there. So I don't really put too much stock into the Ingram suspension. He's going to be great to start the season. I just don't think he's worth a mid-first round pick. Kareem Hunt I have to finish out this tier, and he's not as high as those other guys. I really don't see a case for putting him ahead of any of them just because of the risk. We've got now, he's not a rookie quarterback anymore, but a quarterback that's only had 1 career start in Patrick Mahomes. A quarterback that likes to chuck it deep and is mobile. The mobile part helps Kareem Hunt, but there's just so much risk in that maybe he doesn't dump off to Hunt. Maybe he scrambles a little bit more like we see with Russell Wilson. And that's a possibility for Penny, that he doesn't catch many passes, because when he's in there, the passes aren't going to be designed to go for him, and so maybe Wilson just scrambles. Well, that could happen with Mahomes. I'm not saying it's a massive risk, but when you factor in the idea that he is likely going to struggle and that they have a difficult schedule, they're not going to be winning many games because they're not like the best team in the world. So I think there's just more risk than a lot of those other players. I still really like him, ranking him this high, but there is risk involved. So I haven't really been drafting him at all in mock drafts. Leonard Fournette is next, and I've thought a lot about flip-flopping Fournette and Hunt. And after kind of just talking about Hunt, I might do that. Fournette is just a monster. I mean, if you look at him, that team is going to be pretty decent. I'm not going to say they're going to be that great, but they are going to win some games, and they have a great defense. So there is going to be a good amount of games where he's up in that 25, 26, 27 carries. He's going to get all the goal line work. That's valuable. It's hard in PPR scoring because he's not that great of a receiver, and they have 2 great receiving weapons in Yeldon and Grant. I know I have said on this channel plenty of times that if I'm the Jaguars, I don't draft Leonard Fournette, and I stand by that. I don't think it's a smart pick at all. And I still stand by the fact that if they don't use Fournette in that playoff game against the Patriots, my Patriots, watching that game, I was praying that they would keep playing Fournette, because they would have won that game if they didn't just give him the ball, because he's very inefficient. So there is a risk, along with injuries, because remember, he is very injury prone, that organization realizes how inefficient he is. They paid Grant this offseason. They're going to use him. there's a chance that he has a little bit less volume than we're projecting. So that's why I have him in the tier below. I just might move Hunt into that tier and then move Hunt behind Fournette. But we're going to see how that happens. Right now, I don't have it that way. Jerick McKinnon's next. There's a lot of hype right now swirling around Matt Breida, and I am going to move Breida up in the rankings, but I think that this is really good because I'm not a Breida fan. I think that he's like a fine, replacement level running back, but there's no way they pay McKinnon, and there's no way that how good McKinnon is, they don't use him in the receiving game and in the run game. So I love the news right now because it means that McKinnon, his price is going to drop. And if you can start getting him in like the mid-third, I mean, I haven't really seen that. But if this Breida hype is just starting, like it is just started this week, if it keeps happening, we're going to see his price fall. And that's a very good thing because I really think McKinnon's a great pick, especially in PPR leagues. McCaffrey is a pick that you just can't make in standard. There is no case to drafting Christian McCaffrey in a standard scoring league. They have Funchess, they have Moore, they have Olsen back, and Newton takes carries into the goal line. The touchdown expectancy is very low. They just lost another offensive lineman. Remember, they lost their best offensive lineman in free agency. They just lost, I believe it was their right tackle, potentially for the whole season. That line's going to stink. And he was already really bad running the ball last season. If you look at the advanced metrics, he was awful as a running back. Great as a receiving back, which is why he's good in PPR, but he's just not going to get many yards on the ground. He's not going to have a ton of touchdowns. His touchdown expectancy will decrease, and he already didn't get that many. So I haven't been taking him really in drafts, but definitely not standard. And in PPR, I'm still shying away. I think the price is just a little bit too high. The price I think is awesome for is Devonta Freeman. I haven't really been drafting him enough, I feel like. I'm not doing actual drafts. I'm talking about mock drafts. But nobody's talking about Freeman. Past 3 seasons, he's finished 1st, 6th, and 13th. So he's being drafted on the low end of his range of outcomes. I think that offense is still good, and it probably just got better. Drafting a wide receiver in the first round, a good wide receiver. So I honestly think Freeman's like a safe pick that still has a ton of upside. Remember, I just said he went 1st, 6th, and 13th. If he finished 2nd, would you be shocked? Not really, right? I mean, because especially like you play DFS, Freeman's a home favorite, lock. Like that's just what you do. When he plays at home and they're a favorite, the dude scores touchdowns. So I really like him as a pick, especially just at his draft price. It does not cost you very much, and he's a good pick in standard and in PPR. Joe Mixon's next, and I already released the video breaking down. I think that breakdown was Joe Mixon versus Jordan Howard. So if you want in-depth, check that video out, and I'll say the same for Howard. But in short, he was bad. Like he was really, really bad last season, both yards per carry and yards per carry after contact. Every time I talk about Mixon, I have to shout out the Scott Barrett article. It was a fantastic article. Broke down that, people say the offensive line was bad, but he underperformed the already terrible performance he was expected to have. So given what he was dealing with in the offensive line, he was supposed to be bad, but he was even worse than that. So there's a lot of risk that comes with Joe Mixon, but there's also a lot of upside. He's a fantastic receiver. He's very comparable to Le'Veon Bell, and he's still young. He's 22 years old. That offensive line's supposed to be better. That offense should be better this season. So there's a ton of upside if you draft Joe Mixon. Just don't be shocked if he's not Le'Veon Bell. Don't be shocked if the hype around him doesn't come to fruition. I think he's still a good pick, but Bernard is there, and Bernard's not going away anytime soon. So keep that in the back of your mind. Rashad Penny, I have next as a 3rd-round grade, and he's going to rise in draft. I actually don't remember where he's going right now, but he's probably going to end up in this spot, in this early 3rd to late 2nd round pick. That's just what happens when you draft a running back in the 1st round. I know there's talk about Chris Carson. I know we talk on this channel that we love Chris Carson as a running back. We love his value right now. I think that it's going to be interesting to see. So if Chris Carson comes out and all the fantasy shows are talking about him, and Pete Carroll's talking about how great he is and how they're going to use him, and everyone has Carson as a sleeper, then Penny's going to be a value. But I have a feeling that that's not going to happen, and that people are going to talk up Penny as a potential 3-down back, and how just amazing he is going in the 1st round, and I think his ADP is going to skyrocket. If the first thing happens and people start talking up Carson a lot and Penny's ADP falls, I think Penny's a fantastic pick. So keep that in the back of your mind. Darius Geis next. I think Darius Geis, Penny, and Howard are all much better picks in standard. Chris Thompson's there. And Thompson is going to be used on third downs. So if you're a guy that takes that into account and you like drafting Chris Thompson, well, don't draft Darius Geis. Like, you can't have Geis and Thompson starting for you on your rosters. The Redskins aren't going to be that good. Like, they're going to be fine, but they're not going to be, like, when I say that good, they're not the Saints last year where you can start both running backs. So I think you have to go one or the other, and you have to decide going into the draft which one you like more. I'm on the Geis side. I think he's a fantastic running back. It's just the receptions. If Thompson were to get hurt, this guy skyrockets to an RB1, but unless that happens, his upside is kind of capped because he's not going to have receptions. That's kind of big in PPR scoring. Jordan Howard, again, like I said, I already did the breakdown on him, and I just feel so split. So they were 29th in scoring last season, and they were 5-11, and that's just not what you target. You don't target running backs on bad teams that aren't going to score much. But being a non-pass catching back, with that, you think, oh, he did terrible. No, he still scored 9 touchdowns, and with only 23 receptions, he managed to finish 14th in PPR scoring. So if I'm in the camp that expects Trubisky to be decent this season, projects that offense to score a lot more points, and to be actually decent and up in some games, then wouldn't you think ranking Howard at 17 where I have him, which is roughly where ADP is, I'm pretty sure, wouldn't that be a value? So, like, I think he's a good pick. I have him as a 4th-round grade because I value receptions, because I value that weekly floor. I don't like having a ton of variance. I like winning because my team is better. And when you add variance, then you're going to have weeks where your team's better, but it just hit on the low end of variance. So he's a high variance player because he doesn't have receptions. If he only has 1 reception and doesn't score a touchdown, he's going to fall on the low end of that range of outcomes. So I still think he's a good pick because 23 receptions, finishes running back 14. He's probably going to have a decent touchdown expectancy, even though they're going to throw to Allen Robinson. I get that, but they're going to score more, so I think he can score some touchdowns. I think he's a good pick. Even though we haven't projected a 5% market share for his team, I think he's still a decent pick. So you can still draft Jordan Howard, even in a PPR league. The last guy to finish out this range is Alex Collins, and not much hype at all around him, but I think the hype's going to build now that Kenneth Dixon has that hamstring injury. I have no way of knowing, no time machine today, how long he's going to be out for. But I've already tweeted out, I don't draft people who get hamstring injuries in the offseason. If he comes back tomorrow and then he's fine all preseason, I'll draft Kenneth Dixon again. But he's been out for a little bit now, and I never, ever, ever target people who have hamstring injuries. If you see a report, that someone has a hamstring injury, like a week before the season starts, X. I don't draft him. X is just like a DFS term. I just X him out. Do not draft players who are hurt going into the season. It's very difficult for them to exceed their value at that point, especially when they're trying to overtake a pretty good running back. So I think Collins is going to get hyped up, but I still think he's a good pick. He really only had the full-time job. I think it was like week 7, something around there, like week 7 onwards, and he was on pace for 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns after that with over 40 receptions. So he can catch. That offense should be improved from last season, so I think Collins is a good pick. Moving on to the next tier, we've got Derrick Henry, a guy who I've drafted in exactly 0 PPR leagues. He's a great pick in standard, and he's still got massive upside in either. If Dion Lewis were to go down, this guy's probably an RB1. Just given his talent, given how I think that offense is going to be improved, he just can't catch. So while Dion Lewis is hurt, and because we don't project injuries, I can't just draft him praying for someone to get hurt, because I'm never going to pray for someone to get hurt, especially someone I like as much as Dion Lewis. I was very sad to see him go as a Patriots fan. I think Dion Lewis was one of the more underrated running backs last season. He's fantastic. So it's just tough. It's tough to draft Derrick Henry when you know for a fact he's not going to catch passes. He's in that similar mold as Jordan Howard, but he's got even less. He's a 3% projected target market share. So that all hinges on Dion Lewis, but we know that Dion Lewis is going to be the pass-catching back, limits his upside. Next is Lamar Miller, and I think we're higher than Lamar Miller, higher than a lot of people are. That offense has the easiest schedule in the entire league, and like I say all the time, easy schedule just relates best to a running back, because we know that teams that are up late in games run the ball significantly more than teams that are down. So if we expect the Texans to have an easy schedule, then they should be up at least a decent amount, because remember, the AFC is not that good. So that benefits Miller. We don't know yet if Foreman is going to open the season on the PUP or if he's going to start the season on the active roster. If he opens on the PUP, then you bump up Miller probably like a few spots, but I've kind of factored that in because I think that might happen. But regardless, I'm not scared at all about Foreman. We'll get to that part. I'm not drafting Foreman at all. I think Miller's a decent pass catching back, and I think that they're going to use Miller much, much more than Foreman, even when Foreman's healthy. LeSean McCoy. McCoy is next. He's much lower than a lot of people have him. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting to see what is happening with this guy. Like, are the allegations true? I have no idea. I have no way of knowing. It's just too risky for me, knowing how Goodell literally just hands out suspensions even when there's nothing there or there's very little there. It's just too risky for me, and I don't think the upside at this point in his career pays off that risk. If we find out that he's not going to be suspended for sure, and we find out that he's fully risk-free in that department, then I'll move him up. But until that happens, I'm just going to stay away. I'll draft the other people ahead of him. It's just not worth it where he's going. Sonny Michel is next. He's a guy I've moved down a lot in my rankings. I'm not sure I'm going to move him down any further, but it's entirely possible that I do. I know as well as anyone, watching every Patriots game for the past, 8-9 years, Bill Belichick doesn't care who you are if you fumble the football, unless your name's Tom Brady. He has benched Gronk before. Now, it's in games where they were going to win, which is like most games, which is why people like Sonny Michel. But he's not afraid, if Michel puts the ball on the ground, to bench him for entire games, if not weeks. What did Sonny Michel do in college? Fumbled the most of anyone. What did he do as soon as he entered camp? Fumbled the football. Some guys just can't hang on to it. That is a major concern. It's why I have Rex Burkhead ranked above consensus. It's why I'm thinking of moving Rex Burkhead up a few more spots, because Rex Burkhead's a much safer pick. Michel's probably not going to get many goal line, but if the theoretical upside of Michel hits, he's this year's Alvin Kamara. That's just what he is. He has 13 touchdown upside with like 80 to 90 receptions. That is in his range of outcomes. But what else is in his range of outcomes? It's like 30 receptions, 4 touchdowns, and just a few like 100, rushing yards. Like, that's in his range of outcomes as well. So it's a risky pick. If you think that he figures out this fumbling thing, draft him. If not, draft Burkhead. I think both are guys that have good upside. I'm just going Burkhead. Next is Marlon Mack, and if you give me the running back on the Indianapolis Colts offense, I will take that, because I'm of the belief that Andrew Luck plays this full season. Saw the video yesterday, talked about T.Y. Hilton versus Diggs. I liked Hilton in that video over Diggs because I believe Luck is back, and Luck's going to be back to what he was before. If that's true, then I have to like Marlon Mack. While I'm also drafting Hines, and I think that Wilkins, I think that whole backfield you can draft. You can draft Mack at this spot because of his upside and how good he is as a running back. You can draft Hines because he's got great PPR upside. And you can draft Wilkins in case you don't believe in Mack and you think he's the running back. It's whoever you think is the best you should draft. You can draft multiple. Remember I talked about never drafting handcuffs? That's not a handcuff. If you want to draft Mack and Hines, it's not a handcuff. They're both going to bring you value. You want to draft Mack and Wilkins? I'd hold off, because for Wilkins to pay off, then Mack has to bust. But both Hines and Mack can be good, and Hines and Wilkins can be good. So draft those pairings, just not Wilkins and Mack. Jay Ajayi, I'm in the camp that thinks they're going to use all their backs. They're not going to use Sproles very much, I don't think, but he's still going to be used. So when you have Sproles being used, when you have Corey Clement being used, and Jay Ajayi, it's like, I don't know. It's not really someone I want in the 4th round. I have him as a 5th round grade because of the upside in that offense, but he's not really a guy I've been targeting that much. I still think he's a good pick if you can get him at a discount, but don't expect them to just give him the ball a ton, because they don't do that. They kind of rotate backs. And for everyone who's going to doubt Sproles, unless he gets hurt, he's going to be used. So he's still going to be there. It's not like you're drafting him, but anyone that takes, 2 receptions a game, it's taking it right away from Ajayi. So that does hurt. Rex Burkhead I just talked about. Awesome pick. I love Rex. I've loved him for a few seasons now. I have probably a too high. It's probably too high of a love for Rex Burkhead. I was probably the happiest person he came to New England and the saddest person that he got hurt last season. But he's back. I think he's gonna contribute greatly to this offense, and he's going as a great value right now. Mark Ingram, I think, is also a good pick because let's think about where you're drafting him. So 6th round, that's where I have the grade at. 6th round means that you've probably taken 2 running backs at that point, and you've probably taken either 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers, or 3 wide receivers and 2 running backs. But regardless, that means you don't have to start him. So week 1, you're not going to start him. So it doesn't matter that he's suspended. Week 2, I mean, unless you guys have a bad matchup, I'm not expecting everyone to get hurt week 1, so you probably still don't have to start him. So you're not really losing that much by drafting him because you weren't going to start him anyways. He's back after suspension weeks 4. That's when the buys happen. That's when there's more of a chance people are going to get hurt. So I think he's a great pick because, remember, we only care about the playoffs. He's going to be there for the playoffs, presumably. I mean, everyone has a risk they'll be hurt. But presumably he'll be there, and you're drafting him in a spot where you don't even need to start right away. So I think he's a great pick. Royce Freeman next. I don't draft him. I don't draft him in mock drafts, and I probably should because I don't believe that Booker has showed us anything over his career that would indicate that this isn't Royce Freeman's job. I'll say that Booker's a good receiving back, so the upside in receptions for Freeman might not be there. But I think that he's got really good upside in a team that has a really good defense and should be improved on offense, at least more stable. I don't think Keenum's that good, but I think they're going to be more stable on offense. So I think he's like a fairly safe pick if we learn that he has the job. Right now, we haven't gotten confirmation yet. I just assume that Booker wasn't all of a sudden amazing this offseason. So I think he's a good pick. It's just one that I haven't made a lot, and maybe I should. Marshawn Lynch is next. That's a risky pick. Obviously, he's past that 2,500 touch mark. He's 32 now. He was good. He was PFF's 7th best running back last season. He was tied for 6th in yards per carry after contact. Tied for 11th in touchdowns. He's going to get touchdowns. He still looks like Marshawn Lynch. It's just that I don't think that team's going to be very good. So I don't think the touchdowns are going to be there a ton. You add a year. You add Gruden, who I don't think is going to be a very good coach. And you add in that this is for PPR and he's not going to catch many passes. It's risky. And the upside's probably not massive. But for where you're getting him, honestly, in standard, it's a really good pick. But even in PPR, it's just like a pick that everyone's going to skip over. And then you're going to be sitting there in the 7th round all right, I'll take the 8 touchdowns and, 900 rushing yards. He's probably going to finish, unless he gets hurt, ahead of where he's going. It's just not an exciting pick because the weekly upside with no receptions isn't really there. Last guy in this tier is Jamal Williams, and there's really no case to be made that he's not as explosive as Aaron Jones because he's not as explosive. He's not as good of a pass-catching back. The issue is Aaron Jones is suspended for the first two weeks of the season. So he's going to have the chance to be that running back, and we know how NFL offenses work. If Jamal Williams is the guy that they're going to early in the season and it works and they're winning games and he's playing good, Aaron Jones just one of a shot. That's just how football works. Even if they think Jones is better, he will not overtake Jamal Williams if he plays well and they're winning games. We know that Ty Montgomery has been talked about as the 3rd down back. I have no idea what to think about Ty Montgomery at this point. I think he's a fine flyer, but Aaron Jones is the guy you draft first. But if you're looking for upside, I still think that Aaron Jones is the back to own. I'm not going to be taking Jamal Williams just because I don't believe in him. So that rounds out that tier. I already talked about Dion Lewis. I think it's going to be a much improved offense in Tennessee. I think they're going to throw the ball a lot more, so that definitely benefits Lewis. He's been pretty injury-prone in the past. Fractured his fibula in 2013, placed in the IR. I believe he's torn both of his ACLs, but I'm not positive on that. He's at least torn one of them. But he's just been banged up over his career. And, he's not like a huge guy, so it's not really surprising. So it's not like he has, top 5 upside because Derrick Henry's still there. But imagine if Derrick Henry went down. You think about Henry's going to have massive upside if Lewis goes down. Well, what if Henry went down? How much upside Lewis would have? So he's still a good pick, one that you can't really make in standard, but in PPR, I like it. Kerryon Johnson, we've been we've been hyping him up definitely this offseason. I like him as a running back. I think that it's time they just move on from what they've been doing in the running back position over these past few seasons. I'm not concerned at all about Blunt. Blunt's not a good running back. Don't be concerned there. He's very inefficient at the goal line. They're going to realize that. It's going to be Kerryon Johnson. I'm not super concerned with Theo. Obviously, Theo's there. Theo's going to catch passes, but I still project Kerryon Johnson for a 9% market share, so I think Kerryon Johnson's a good pick. There's an issue with schedule. They have a pretty difficult schedule, especially considering, what division they're in. So we need to pump the brakes like a small amount if he gets hyped up, but I don't think he's going to get hyped up too much. I think he's going to stagnate at around this 6th to 7th round range. I have him as a 7th round grade, so if he falls into there, and all these, when I say grade, it's all for 12-team PPR leagues. So I think he's a decent pick in the 7th round. Isaiah Crowell is rising up my board, which is concerning because he rose up my board last season. But yes, the Jets are bad, but my boy, I love Elijah McGuire so much, but the dude just broke his foot. So that's unfortunate, which means now they're probably going to keep Powell, even though in a perfect world, if you're the Jets, you get to cut Powell, you get to play McGuire, you get to play your young guys, you get to not play Rawls because he's terrible. But now it's Crowell, and I don't know how long I don't even actually know how long a broken foot takes to recover from, but he's not going to start the season, McGuire. So McGuire's not an issue. Rawls is the worst running back in the league, so he's not an issue. And Powell's he's just mediocre. So we know that Crowell is going to be the guy. We know he has reception upside. We know they're going to use him at the goal line. So he's a pretty good pick. And it's not like he's going in the 3rd round like he was last season. He's going in the 7th, 8th round. So I like targeting him. Standard or PPR doesn't really matter. Ronald Jones, not a guy I'm targeting. Really, Ronald Jones and Kenyon Drake are not guys I'm targeting. The upside is massively capped. I believe the Bucks. The Bucks have the hardest schedule in the league, at least last time I checked. That shifts throughout the offseason. If you're using actual strength of schedule, not just working off numbers from last season, looking at Vegas totals, it's a tough schedule, and he's not going to be the pass catching guy, and he's a rookie, and Winston suspended to start the year. It's just there's a lot of things where it's I think he's going to be hyped up a little too much. Great dynasty pick, great pick in the future, but I think it's going to take him a season to really get things going, so I'm not targeting him. I really just don't like Drake. He's moved down a lot in my rankings. I don't even know where he goes in drafts because I just completely disregard him. But 8th round grade for me, I don't see the upside. I look at him as an athlete. I look at his tape, and I don't really think he's all that good. Plus, they just brought in Balaj, who I actually think is pretty good. I think he's a good pass catching guy. So where's the upside on the Dolphins, really? They're not going to be good. They're not going to score very many points. I don't think he's very good. So, no, that's not a situation I'm targeting. And the last guy is Chubb. I'm targeting him in the sense that if he becomes a value in a draft, because I've seen him fall a lot, then you can go on there. But so the Browns are improved. But the Browns have so many weapons. We don't know what's happening with Dez Bryant as of recording this. We don't know what's happening with Josh Gordon as of recording this. But there's so many guys, and they can only score so many touchdowns. I'm of the belief, I think they're going to be good, and I think that they're going to be decent in the future. I think Baker is going to start maybe, if he doesn't start right away, I think maybe halfway through the season, because I think he is the better quarterback, even though I really like Tyrod Taylor. I think Baker's going to be good, which is obviously it helps a running back when your quarterback's good. But Njoku's there, Landry's there, Gordon is there, hopefully. But then they've got Duke Johnson. They've got Carlos Hyde. There's just so many guys that where's the upside for Chubb? So I am targeting him because I believe that Nick Chubb as a player is phenomenal. I think he's a great running back. It just does concern me that there are so many guys. So that's the last guy for that tier. Moving on to this next one, Aaron Jones. I already touched on him. He's more explosive. He's a better pass-catching back than Jamal Williams. The issue is he's suspended to start the season. That's not a concern for us on our fantasy team. We're just getting a discount on a guy that we weren't going to be starting right away anyways. It's just a concern about now, do they keep him behind Jamal Williams? We don't know. So there's risks there. Tariq Cohen, I have ranked below consensus and that's just because of upside. Even if Jordan Howard were to get hurt, Cohen's role doesn't change. Like he's 5'6", 180 pounds. Like he's not a big guy. They're not going to give him a lot of carries. I think that he's like relatively safe because he's going to be involved in the offense, and an offense that I think is going to be improved. So he's got a chance to score some touchdowns. Not really that many because they're not going to use him that much in the red zone, but they're going to use him all over the field. He's going to have his receptions. So he's more of a DFS play. Like if you're looking for a really cheap guy that could literally break off an 80-yard screen pass any given play. But I think he's more suited for that and like best ball. So not really a guy I overly reach for in PPR, but he's going higher than I have him ranked, so it's really not an issue. Same thing with Thompson. I think that he's a guy you play on DraftKings. Like that's just who he is. He's a guy you play on best ball formats. He's not really a guy I'm touching because, again, we know that Geis is a much better running back. They're going to use Geis. The touchdown's going to go to Geis. The first down, second down's going to go to Geis. So where's the upside for Thompson? He fell on the high end of his range of outcomes for touchdowns last season, so I think people are factoring that in a little bit too much. Honestly, looking at this tier, it's like the Met tier. Like other than Aaron Jones, I'm not really touching this tier, and Corey Clement, I guess, but I'm not touching this tier besides that. Coleman, like he has a ton of upside if Freeman were to go down, but I kind of think they're drafting the replacement for Coleman. We know he's got the sickle cell injury, or sickle cell traits on injury, but that limits his upside because you know they're not just going to feed him. And he's just so volatile that, like, yeah, he'd probably finish the season ahead of this ranking, but you're not going to feel like he did. You know, it's almost like that Brandon Cooks effect or that Amari Cooper effect where he's going to have some really big games, and you're going to be like, oh, wish I played him. Then you're going to play him, and he's going to have 2 points. So he's a very frustrating guy to have, and I just don't like being frustrated in fantasy sports. So I don't draft him. But there is still upside there. Duke Johnson, I touched on. I guess I didn't really touch on, but I touched on the fact that like he has literally no touchdown ceiling. But look at where he finished in PPR scoring. I'm actually not gonna spoil it for you. Go to last year's rankings and see where he finished. You're gonna be pretty surprised. So he's got a lot of reception upside. We know they're gonna use him on third down. We know he's a better pass catching back, obviously, than Hyde because Hyde's like the worst in the league, but even than Chubb. So he's gonna be used. Just where's the upside? More of like a safe pick. I have him ranked as a 10th round pick. He's probably gonna go before that, so I'm probably not gonna have him on many teams. Last guy on the tier is Corey Clement, and you guys already heard my take on the fact that I'm probably not gonna target Jay Ajayi that much, in that Sproles is going to be used, a little bit. So I'm concerned about the upside for those two. Obviously, you're concerned about upside for Corey Clement, but I think he's a guy that, let's say something happens to Ajayi, big upside. Or let's say your team just tanks, you're going RB0, and you can draft Clement because he's going to be used in a pretty good offense. He could fall in the high range of outcomes. So he's an okay pick, not someone I'm like jumping for joy for, but someone that is going as a value, and I like values late in draft. So I think he's a good pick. Moving on to the next tier, I'm not touching Theo Riddick because like you have to hedge somewhere. Like you have to go into looking at teams with an outcome you think is going to happen. And my outcome is that I think Kerryon Johnson is going to be the running back for that team, which means I can't also think that Theo Riddick's going to be awesome, and like Marvin Jones and Golden Tate and Kenny Golladay. Like I'm planting my flag on Kenny Golladay at least being good, like not taking over, but being a good value, on Golden Tate being a good pick, and on Kerryon Johnson being a good pick. That's who I think, and Stafford too. They have a tough schedule, but I think that can work out because tough schedule is more of a running back thing, not really a quarterback thing as much, because their schedule is tough in that they're facing a lot of good teams, but that might just mean that Stafford has to throw the ball a ton, and that does benefit the pass catchers. So Theo's going to score points, but it's almost like that conversation I just had around Chris Thompson, in that like Theo's not going to get any carries, so you're just banking on when you're going to play him when he scores the 2 touchdowns, which is pretty tough to do. So not really targeting him there. Not targeting Peyton Barber. Like if you want to go RB0 and get a few points early in the season, I guess you can take Barber, but he's a non-pass catching back that's going to split carries in a team that has a tough schedule. So no for me. Looking at it, honestly, I think I'm going to move Giovanni Bernard ahead of both of these guys. Bernard is a back that's definitely being overlooked this season. He's still a great pass catcher. That offense is going to be improved, so his upside's huge if Mixon goes down. and his upside is still there week to week where you could play him even if with a healthy Mixon. So I think he's a pretty good pick. Ty Montgomery's a guy I've never really drafted. I was just shocked that season. Was it last year or 2 years ago? I can't remember. When just everyone wanted to draft Ty Montgomery. People actually said that he can handle the workload because he's bigger now. They completely throw out the fact that he's never been given a big workload, so we couldn't know, and that he has been banged up in the past. They just figured that, running back, Packers, catches passes, I'm going to play him. Like, he's just not a running back. That's not who he is. So they're not going to use him as running back, and they don't really have they've never really had a scat back role. Like, they've never had a guy where they just bring in, at least recently, that they're just throwing a bunch of dump offs to. So I don't really think that the upside's there. He needs multiple injuries to be the guy, and even then I don't think he can hang up to it. So not drafting him, not drafting the next three. CJ Anderson, Devonta Foreman. Early in this video when I said Foreman, I had a Lamar Miller, I couldn't remember the name. Devonta Foreman. Not drafting Devonta Foreman because people always remember the last thing they saw. It's that recency bias. Last thing we remember from Devonta Foreman is him running for a long touchdown and hurting his Achilles. But having a game where he had 90 and 2 touchdowns, something like that. But let's be honest. Look at every other carry and look at every other game. Was he even good? No, he's really not that good. And he has a 1% projected market share. So he could open the season on the pup, which means obviously you're not drafting him. But he's just not a guy you want. He doesn't catch passes, and he's really not all that good. I don't think Miller's that great of a running back either. But at least Miller can catch. At least Miller's not hurt. At least Miller's better. Foreman's not good. So I'm not drafting him. Hyatt, I've already highlighted. He's the worst receiving back in the league. So no reception upside. He's got no touchdown upside because of the team that he's on and the role that he has. And he's got competition on first down. So he's like a second down running back. So it's no for me. And then Hines. Hines is a guy that I really like. He's similar to that Chris Thompson and Tariq Cohen, but he's going much later. And he's got not Trubisky, not Smith, but Andrew Luck. So he's got a good quarterback. He's on a high-scoring team, a team that's going to be losing a ton of games, and he's a great receiving weapon, very fast, very good running back. He just has no upside on the ground. Obviously, let's say Mac gets hurt, it's Wilkins. Let's say Wilkins is hurt, it's Mac on early down. So no rushing upside at all, but I think he's still a good pick in PPR scoring. You're not touching him at all in standard. Next here is Wilkins. I would put them more in the same tier if this was standard, but in PPR, I only gave Wilkins a 1% projected market share because I didn't feel like putting 0, but it's essentially 0. He's not going to catch passes. It's going to be Hines. It's going to be Mac in that department. But if you think that Mac's not that good and you think Luck's back, if that's the world you live in, where you're I think Luck's back, but I just don't believe in Mac, you should be drafting Wilkins in every team. I'm going to sprinkle in both because I just don't know at this point. I still think Mac's better, but you could easily convince me that Wilkins is going to be the running back. And if he's going in the 12th round, sign me up for that. Sign me up for the running back in the 12th round in an Andrew Luck offense. So I like him as a pick. Scrolling through this tier, and I actually really like the first couple people I see. Balaj, I think, is a really good pass catching back on a team that's going to be down a ton. So he's got that upside that Hines has. Just obviously he's not on as good of a team, but they're going to be down a ton too. So he's a pretty good option late. Carson is a good option late. We just have to be careful how much he gets hyped. I've already seen the hype starting to build. And whenever I see the hype starting to build on August 1st, I get concerned. So pump the brakes if you think that we're going to be drafting him in the 9th, 10th round. I'm in the 13th round grade. I feel comfortable with that. If it gets too expensive, there's other guys you can go for. Rod Smith goes here just because of the raw upside. We know we're projecting Ezekiel Elliott for 400 touches. Whenever you project a running back for that many touches, he has a chance to get hurt. And if you take Ezekiel Elliott out and you bump in Rod Smith, you may have just won your league. That's the value that he has in the 13th round. Is it going to happen? I don't project injuries, so no. But he's a perfect guy. Who do you draft late? Remember I released the video on what we're doing late in drafts? It's upside, but it's upside that I can drop. So if week 4 comes and this year's Alvin Kamara is on free agency, I can drop Rod Smith super easily, not attached to him, and I've got that upside while he's on my team in case Ezekiel Elliott goes down. But you're not drafting a backup. Remember, if you drafted Zeke, don't draft Rod Smith. Because for Smith to work out, that means your first round pick is busted and you're at a major disadvantage. Next guy is Kenneth Dixon. Again, hamstring injury. If he's out for any length of time, we're not drafting him at all. But I think that if he were healthy, he has at least a chance to overtake Alex Collins. But I'm not drafting him right now. I'm drafting Collins because he's hurt. Latavius Murray is not going to be in any of my teams because I think Dalvin Cook's awesome. I think Dalvin Cook is the first, second, third, and goal line back. So not drafting Murray. But if you don't think Cook's that good or you think Cook's going to hurt, you want to bank on that, it's Murray. The rest of the guys, to be honest, at least in this tier, and then there's another tier, it's just flyers. It's Booker. You think Freeman isn't that good, and you think Booker is a good pass catching back. We have him at 7% projected market share. He's a good pass catching back. That's the only thing he's good at, but he is still good at receiving. So he's a fine guy to take late if you don't think Freeman's good. I just think he is, so I'm going to be drafting him instead. James White, I'm not after. There's just too many running backs on that team, and White's always good in the playoffs. It's like playoff Amendola and playoff White, or Super Bowl White, really. But during the regular season, he's never really anything you can trust. Stewart's nothing but a lottery pick in case of injury. I'm not even fully convinced Stewart makes the team. I think he's done, so not a guy I'm drafting. Grant, I will draft if you're this late or you're in a deeper league. I'm in a 16-team league with the people in my master's program. If any of them are watching this video, they better take Grant before me because Corey Grant will be on my team if I'm in a 16-team league. Absolutely love the guy. He is just a beast. You give him the ball to touchdown, guys. I mean, I'm telling you, if I'm running a team, this dude's getting the ball in space every single drive. I want the ball in his hands. I think the Jaguars are going to realize that this year. I hope they do. Because he's just awesome. They gave him the contract. I think they're going to use him a little bit more. So he's a great guy to target late in some deeper leagues. The rest of these guys, honestly, like I just said, are all flyers. Edmonds. If DJ goes down, Edmonds is the clear-cut guy, so he has upside. Gore, don't draft Gore, honestly. I'm not drafting Gore. I'm not drafting Powell, Blunt, Yeldon, because I think Grant's better. Breida, I just talked about. I'm probably going to move him up a little bit in rankings. He's getting a little bit too much hype, but I still think some of the hype is warranted. I just think the market is going to see that hype, and it's going to adjust and then over-adjust over this month. So I'm not going to be drafting him. McGuire was a guy I was drafting in every team, or at least in every mock draft, because I love the talent, but dude's got a broken foot, so we need to hear a little bit more about that. Justin Jackson and Eckler, we just need to watch camp, basically. But I have them as 17th round grades. So in a normal league, you're not going this far. We just got to see. Whoever's going to be a third down back's going to have some value. But again, they're probably going to be a best ball format. They're going to be a daily format. They're really not going to be guys you can trust. I know Eckler had an okay season last year, but Justin Jackson is Eckler. They're the same player. So we just have to see who wins that battle in camp and then draft that player. So that's it. How many was that? This is really small on my screen, so I can't even see. I'll squint. 68? I think that was 68 running backs that we just broke down. Obviously, I didn't go super in-depth on every single one of them, but I'm trying to go in-depth on basically every single one in these early round breakdowns. Like yesterday, I did T.Y. versus Diggs. In the future, I'm going to try and hit on everyone in the top 3 rounds, really. We're going to be pumping out probably 2 of those a week come mid-August. It's just tough right now. I'm in my master's program, and we have a lot of work. I'm editing these videos. This video, I'm probably going to finish at 2 a.m., wake up at 7. It's tough every day, so we can't pump out videos on the weekends. That's when I have to catch up. But I'll be out of the program, or at least the summer semester. Obviously, it's still fall and spring. I'll be out of that come August 12th, which is when we will transition to 7 days a week. And a lot of those videos are going to be breakdowns because I want you guys to be solid on the first 4 rounds. So we're going to try and in-depth break down every single player in these, at least the first 3 rounds maybe. and just gonna be me breaking down 2 players at a time. Try and get through most of the guys you guys want, most of the players you guys want covered. So remember about the premium rankings. This is an exceptional deal. Honestly, it is the best deal that we can think of. $10 gets you access to our premium rankings, which we update, and I'm going to be updating every single day come mid-August, or come really like August 7th, probably like August 7th. So in a week, they'll be updated every single day. They're going to be super up to date. They're going to have exactly who we're targeting, exactly how risky they are, exactly what you should be doing at different parts in the draft. You're going to get the chat, so you can contact us. You can contact other people. You can put polls in there. You're going to get the DFS content, and you do all of this for $10 that you're not even losing, because it's going into your own DraftKings account that I'm going to then help you grow into potentially more. I grew $5 into thousands of dollars. So it's not easy, but football is the easiest sport. Try playing baseball. That's tough. You're going to lose money playing baseball in your first 1 or 2 seasons. Football, not the case. There are a lot of noobs out there playing football, and it's fun. I know you guys are all football fans. I can help you diversify so that it's not risky. So check that out. It's an awesome deal. And let me know how you guys think these rankings were. Do you agree with my rankings? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comment section down below. But that is finally the end of this rankings video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, how about we hit that like button? How about we subscribe if we're new? And thanks for watching.